Welcome to the Man Up, Man Down podcast, presented by Volker Beluda and David Pawsey. We discuss the pressures and challenges faced by men approaching middle age that we're often too embarrassed to speak about with our friends. You can find us online at www.manupdown.com. Enjoy the show and don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review.
So, welcome to another episode of Man Up, Man Down. So I was looking forward to that episode for a while now. So we welcome Kenny. So in terms of an introduction, Kenny is a child refugee from Uganda. Got over his obsessive compulsive disorder, so OCD, while working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta. Held his first group in Sydney 28 years ago, and then launched Men's Speak men's group in London 25 years ago, holding daily men check-in online groups every day since lockdown. So he's trained and supervised therapists, coaches and leaders of men for the past 10 years with accredited facilitation training and private sessions held from a central London therapy room and online. So there's a lot in there already. So first of all, welcome to our podcast, Kenny.
Thank you. Finally, we made it. Good to meet you both.
Good
to meet you, Kenny.
Meet you. So you go under the name of the Man Whisperer. I think that's how I got to know you. So give us an overview of what you do. There's a bit of therapy in there. There's a bit of coaching. There are men groups. There's Mother Teresa in there. So
Something for everyone.
If there's nothing else, right? I grew up with this lady in the news, and then when she died, I was really sad. Although I've never met her. She's a saint now, right? According to Catholic, yeah. So.
And she's a right battle axe as well, actually. I'm not sure that I've ever met anyone who's so focused. And she's just like not distracted. She used to work from really early to really late. She didn't sleep a lot. And I remember once I said to her, I went and worked with dying men in Calcutta, the home for the dying. And it was hard, heavy work. And I remember saying, I was brought up Catholic, and then I drifted for many, many years. I don't think I've ever actually drifted back in the Catholic way, but I include it in who I am. And every morning I would go and pray with the nuns because I needed the strength, and I just didn't know what to do because it was heavy, upsetting. Can't imagine, I can't even properly think about it or feel it sitting here, considering how they were. And a lot of these dying men, for some of them, this is the best they'd ever had it in their lives because they were fed, they had a roof over their head, they were being taken care of. But yeah, it was heavy, heavy work. So I'd pray with the nuns, go to work all day, go back to my cheap hotel, have a shower, generally cry in the shower just to get it out of me. Wouldn't really feel like eating, but the only way to take care of ourselves and our immune system was to eat. So I'd eat, and then I'd write it out of me. And I remember saying to her, how come you not only work so hard, but have so much time for your public face? Because that's not just time and energy. That's a lot of grabby people, a lot of stories, a lot going on to be there for these people. And she said, well, if this is what helps the poorest of the poor, and I need to be this person, like the figurehead or whatever it is, so people will take care of the dying and the orphans and the lepers, which is what we were doing in Calcutta, then I'll do it. And it was then that I kind of realized that, because I've been around a lot of famous people, I guess, since I moved to London, and it's not nice. And I realized that was kind of permission that I can go a lot more public, because it's not about me, it's about the work. And that's exactly what she said. It's not about her, it's about the work. It's about the people. It's about what society needs or the people around her need. And I have spent far too much of my time feeling powerless with the way the world is going, with the way people treat each other. And I realized how powerful I actually am with the way that I live my life and what I pass on. I don't need to take on the big guys and avoid what's around me and myself and my own responsibility. So it turned things around for me. And the whole man whisperer thing was from Newsweek. They wrote a cover story article about men and mental health and suicide. What I didn't realize is they were also writing a book, and then they wrote a chapter about me in the book. I was the only one who wasn't a doctor or something, so they called me the man whisperer, and I thought, oh, I'll have that.
Yeah. Great branding. I like it.
Yeah. In a way, but in another way, I don't know. Is it a bit salesy? Is it a bit cheap? I can't see me from the outside, and I don't want to be some trashy salesy wannabe.
Yeah. I mean, the only other time I heard the word whisperers when you have dog or horse whisperers, right? So,
What, you've never had anyone whisper sweet nothings in your ear, Volker?
No, we don't do that in Germany.
So,
someone wants to whisper in my ear, but anyway.
So sorry, just tracking back a bit, how did you end up in Calcutta with Mother Teresa?
I was actually living in Fiji at the time, and my family's from Goa, but my parents and I were born in Africa. My mother, brother and I in Uganda, and my father in Kenya. And we'd never actually, my mother had been to Goa once or twice because my grandparents fled to Goa when there was trouble in Africa with Idi Amin. But then we realized there is no more Goa. It used to be Portuguese. It's taken over by the Indians, and all our property was lost. So we didn't have a home there, and we ended up having to just literally run for our lives. We had a phone call saying, well, we knew we were on the death list. Our phones were tapped. We were followed. And we had a phone call saying, we're going to come and kill you tonight. So that's when we thought, or my parents thought, I was 7, can't avoid this anymore. And that's when we went into hiding. And apparently throughout the night, they came to the house. And we just had to leave. So because we'd never been to Goa, I pretty much hassled, begged and bullied my family, let's go to Goa. We've heard about this place, and apparently this is where we're supposed to tell people we're from, but how can we be from there if we've never been there and we don't know much about it? So it's the craziest thing to move from the paradise of Fiji to the paradise of Goa, and it costs an absolute fortune. But it's like, if they're going to go, then we're going to go. And I thought, there's something else here. What's going on? There's got to be something else. And when I left the UK in 93, I was very clear that at some level I was giving my life back to wherever I need to be, whatever I need to do. And from then, I've been more following and listening to life and following. So it's like, okay, there's something else. What's happening? What's going on? And I promised the women in Fiji that I would buy them like masses and masses of skirts so they could open a stall in the market to make money for the family, for the kids. Ended up being delayed in, Singapore overnight. And ended up having to stay in a hotel. Met an Australian woman who was going to her guru's place in the desert, and some ashram thing. And we hung out, and it's like, no, of course I'm not going to come and stay with you. I'm going to go to Goa. I'm going to go. And then I realized that something in my mind said, go to Calcutta, work with Mother Teresa. I didn't even know she was there. I didn't know if they took volunteers. This is before the internet. And I thought, okay, well, if that's what I'm told, then that's what I'm going to do.
So how old were you?
Mid-30s. No, late 20s, early 30s.
All right.
Yeah. So I ended up meeting this woman, going to her ashram, realizing through various coincidences that I can prepare here to go to Mother Teresa. Ended up at Mother Teresa's, and I worked for a month. And then my intention was to go back and work for a month every year. I'd never been so useful, and I learnt so much. And it was hell. It was absolute hell. And then I went back a year later with over Christmas and New Year, because it just seemed like a good idea. And unfortunately, I haven't been back since, but I guess I've been busy doing other things. But it was really weird because it never crossed my mind. I hadn't been to church probably for years, if not decades, but I literally needed to pray with the nuns to have enough strength to see myself through the day to do that work. And man, I got to know myself. And it was literally, I'll tell you a scene. This is quite disgusting, maybe. Every morning, we would get all the guys and they'd all go and have their showers, and we'd have this huge kind of cauldron vat thing of boiling water and God knows what in it. And all their sheets and their bed pajamas and whatever would go in there. And it was quite disgusting. You'd never imagine what came out of these people's bodies, whether it was their wounds or their sickness or whatever. And it would be, and we'd stir it and we'd whatever, and we'd use the ash to clean the metal crockery that we'd feed them with. And it was stirring, and I still had OCD, but I was doing things like I gave a little boy a catheter, and when people came in, we'd shave their heads and bodies just to get the bugs off them and to see where their wounds are and how to manage them. And for me, it's like there were so many ways that I was restricted in my life, not just OCD, I had Tourette's, body dysmorphia, whatever. But doing that and being with these humans, my stuff went out the window. And I remember once I was stirring this thing, cleaning the clothes, and of all things for an OCD, there was a splash and some drops of that vile, disgusting water went in my mouth. And it's like, I died. I literally, in that moment, I didn't flinch, but inside, I died. Something changed. Really weird moment, eh?
Well, I guess, I don't know what I'm trying to explain this because I'm not a psychologist or anything, but I guess it's almost like the worst thing that you could possibly imagine as someone with OCD happened. And then, yeah, there was nothing to be afraid of after that.
It's like exposure therapy, isn't it?
Totally. One big hit.
So that cured your OCD.
Yeah, that was it. I mean, you know, there are traits here and there of this and that, but it's choice. And what I had to learn was right here. I was never here and now in my life. I was always surviving the future, second guessing, making sure people are okay. I was the eldest of my mother, my godmother's favorite. I was a mummy's boy. I was the golden boy, which enslaved me to be responsible for their and other women's emotions. That was the programming. With that going on, it's always on duty, always making sure that things don't go wrong, always making sure people are happy and safe. And that's early programming. That was my early life as a male.
I mean,
and with that, means
just for the listeners, because this is something we sort of covered before we came on. You mentioned that you came into the UK as a refugee at the age of 7. Your dad didn't, so you became head of the family from that age.
Before then, I mean, I remember when I was 7, before we caught the flight over here, my father saying to me, "You may never see me again. You're now the head of the family. Take care of your mother and brother." So that was official. Before that, it was unofficial. And that's just the way it was.
It's a lot of responsibility for someone. You're saying you were 7 at the time?
Yeah.
Wow.
And as men now, we can look at it and say that was a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
I believe, for me as a child, and children generally, and for my childhood, you could say it was very dramatic, blah, blah, blah. It was my normality. And I would say for so many people I've worked with, male and female, It was our normality. It's all we knew, it's all we had, it's all that was going on. And then very often when I worked with men, it's later in life, unless there is a big breakdown or an addiction or some trouble and they have to deal with the issues. It's later in life when things are on the level and they're relatively safe and okay, that stuff starts to come up. And I would say from beginning to end, my work is about meeting people where they are. So when I was responsible for the women or for safety, it was second guessing what's going to happen and how do I fix it, because I can't afford more mess to fix because I'm on the edge right now. I had to learn to be present, and I had to learn to be able to respond rather than react. And from this presence, I would say I have absolute choice with everything in my life, because I'm not coming from fear. I'm coming from love. I'm not reacting. I'm responding. I'm not putting on a good show to survive. I'm showing up to life, and I can choose how to live. And it's from this presence and from the depths of my own shit that I can sit next to people in their shit, and then the magic happens. Because I've seen for so many decades, it's not about talking about what went on forever. It's about being able to meet people, sit next to them and feel feelings together and be together with whatever it is that happened or didn't happen. It's just, and it's in those moments, and that's not necessarily only sessions. I've seen those moments literally every day with the online groups. People will come on, maybe even for the first time, and talk about something they've never talked about. And the way that they're met there, rather than processed or fixed or saved or anything, just met there. It's that meeting that can set it free, and then life can move on. And it's almost like the meeting is meeting in the dark shadow. The stuff that's been denied, the stuff that hasn't been felt, the stuff that never happened, because if it's included, life would break down. And when people are met in the dark shadow, not only does it set that free, but I'd say it opens the equal and opposite, at least in the gold shadow, of what might be. And I've also felt that hidden behind the dark shadow, whatever it is, wherever the pause button's depressed, when that meeting happens, the tools for purpose somehow magically emerge. It's almost as if they're hidden behind there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I asked the question, if I say, after the introduction, what's your qualification? Are you a therapist? Because you talk a little bit like a therapist, but you also talk a little bit like a philosopher. I mean, what you're saying all makes sense, right? At least it makes sense to me. And I mean, where's your knowledge coming from? Obviously, a lot comes from experience, right? As you already said, right?
To be, am I allowed to swear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good. To be totally frank, I was so fucked up with the OCD, the body dysmorphia, the Tourette's. I'd trichomania, I'd pull my hair, pick at my skin. I was twitching and grunting. I was starving. I wanted to kill myself, but I couldn't because there were people to take care of, and I thought there'd be one less mouth to feed. I was fucked. I was so fucked that the only option was to unfuck up myself. And I knew nothing about therapy. We were poor. We lost absolutely everything, and we were lucky to get out with our lives. We had nothing. My parents didn't know how to cook or clean or shop, because people used to do that for us in Africa. So we had to learn, and I wanted to starve myself. I had eating issues from Africa because there were people starving, and I couldn't see how I could eat. And I didn't see them around me. I saw them on TV as a very young child. How could I eat when other people aren't eating? And I remember telling the staff, it's like, I stopped eating, and then I stopped eating so much because I was hassled, and I said, save it and send it to them. And to this day, there is enough food. How can some eat and some not eat? So I had to unfuck up myself. So I learned how to do it. And I tried so many things that failed, but I had to learn how to be present. I had to learn how to have choice. I had to learn how to not come from panic. I had to stop the twitching. I had to be able to pass my exams and not be an embarrassment and not be some sort of a twat or moron. So I was doing it to save my life, and we didn't have money for an education. I had to learn and work it out myself. And much, much later on in life, I realized that the type of work I was doing was similar to therapy. I didn't know what therapy was. I thought therapy was for, I don't know, millionaires and Hollywood film stars, some of which, well, not the Hollywood film stars, but I have quite a few millionaire and star clients. But it's like that was another world. So I really had to work it out. And then over the years, for example, I did voice dialogue training, which is when I work with clients, I get people very often to move chairs and I speak to different parts of them. And it's very, very efficient to empower them to work with their psyche. These days, a lot of people are into, what do they call it? Family constellations?
Yeah, it's family constellation, it's parts work, right? Internal
Parts,
family
exactly,
system.
chair work, big
Gestalt.
minds, Gestalt.
Yeah, it's all.
I'd never heard of any of it. But, you know,
Okay.
I had to work shit out. And then it was a relief to see that this is around and I could learn and top up what I've worked out from the things that I'd discovered. And then, you know, I'm not a parent. I never wanted to be because I had a busy childhood, but I did parenting classes and I used those tools in daily life. I used them in boardrooms. And I know I'm going to be working at Wellington College later today, which is a boarding school. So many of my clients are boarding school boys. And I know that where I meet people is nothing to do with their age, but it's everything to do with their stage in life and where they kind of got stuck. And with some people, the trauma happened when they were sent to boarding school at 8. For some people, it was when someone died or when they moved home, or when they changed school and someone got bullied, or whatever it is. But it's meeting them energetically and emotionally where they're stuck and starting from there.
Hello folks, it's Volker here. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. As you know, I coach executives, whether that is for leadership skills, or sales leadership skills, or working as a therapist too. There are few ways I can help you to get unstuck, improve your work-life balance, or become a better version of yourself. So you will be more productive and have more time for your family. Whatever it is, you can join my client list of people from General Electric, Pepsi, DHL, Boots, and many others. Book a free exploratory call via my website, www.obnat.us. That's OBNAT.us. Now back to the show.
So the work you do is, I mean, how maybe we should have attended a session with you. But what are the sessions like? Is it just listening?
No.
Is it an open discussion?
Well, it depends on who it is. I mean, the one-on-one work, it's with all my work actually. I've got this bell. Check out my bell.
No one's ever said that on the podcast before.
No. And we do allow swearing, but I've never seen a bell before on a podcast.
No bell end jokes. We're better than that.
No, we're not.
But before the men's groups and before my private sessions, we stop, I ring my bell, and we have 2 minutes of silence just to get here. To get present, to get clear about what's up, to get clear about ideal outcomes, to get into feeling and out of the head. And then it starts, and every session's relatively different depending on who people are, where they are, and what's going on. With the men's groups, the daily online groups that we started since lockdown, that, you know, I don't run them every day. I try to be there every day, but my facilitators run them, and they're all volunteers. and they are just fucking excellent blokes and real individuals. It's not like, we're all the same. There's the ground rules that people either agree to or ask for something to be changed. Then there's 2-minute silence. And then we start with 3 very basic questions. Your name. So people, even though it's on Zoom, so people take their space and they include themselves by saying their name. How you feel right now. So for some people that can be quite difficult because firstly it's feelings, which might be foreign to some people. Secondly, it's right now, which might be difficult for some people. But that's the next question. And then the next one is, what's going on? What's up? Is, what's going on in your life that you need to talk about, or what's not going on, or what's at the back of your mind, or what's causing pain, or what do you need to celebrate even? And then everyone checks in. And then from there, we can see, is anyone in trouble? Is there someone suicidal in the room? What do we have in common? Who needs what? And then the facilitator knows how to hold the space so everyone is equal, everyone is heard, and everyone gets a chance to not just let it out, but the strapline we use is to hang out, be heard, and get real. So they're heard. They're not fixed or processed. They're not upstaged. There's no advice, or it doesn't go into the head. The facilitator holds everyone safe and present. And the magic happens from there. And thankfully, it's every day. So some people, especially during lockdown, have said, I need this because this is how I keep myself alive to come to the group tomorrow.
So what sort of time in the day are they run?
Weekdays, it's 12:30 to 1:30, and weekends it's 10:30 to 11:30. We open the door, cyber door, like 10 minutes early, so everyone can get there and, sort out their crappy tech and whatever it is that needs to be done.
Microphones, for instance.
I was going to say,
exactly.
You're touching a nerve there, Kenny.
But how big are the groups? I mean, how many people are we talking that are coming, if I say regularly? Are the groups like 50, 10, 200?
It depends. And if there are too many, then we break it into breakout rooms, depending on how many facilitators are there. And during lockdown, it was a lot. It was like, probably more around 50. These days, maybe it's an average of, say, a dozen. Okay. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Plus, because it's every day, a lot of people pass through.
Yeah.
And then as well as the daily groups, they have been, and there are dads groups, young men's groups, retired men's groups, neurodiverse groups, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim groups that aren't religious, but they're people who've come from that
background. Yeah.
What about age? Is there? I mean, you mentioned young dads. I mean, is there an average age or?
Wouldn't say so. I mean, what I love about the groups is it's from literally 18, but usually it's very early 20s, and blokes up until their 80s come in. So I love that there's that cross section.
Yeah.
I love that it's across the races as well. But for me, I guess what matters more, I don't really know why, is it's cross-class, where usually the different classes stay with themselves, but we get such a cross-section of classes. And it's phenomenal that we know that we have things in common, and we can learn from each other's experiences, and people talk from their own experiences. But yeah, there's a huge cross-section, and that's a gift to everyone. And people respect that, it is not, like I said before, it's not about age. It's about the stage in life that people are.
Yeah.
And we're in it together. And no one's trying to upsell them into something or make them join something. One of the things that we say is we don't want you to be like us. We want you to be like you. And one of the ground rules is play bigger than the rules, so you can find out who you are and you can find out who you don't no longer need to be.
I mean, it's interesting that you've pretty much kind of touched on a lot of the, well, when a lot of the things that I tend to mention in conversations like this. Sort of, first of all, the first one being that, sort of getting any kind of talking therapy is massively inaccessible to the vast majority of the population, whether that's getting it through the NHS, because obviously it is just a capacity issue there. To go private, it is massively unaffordable for most people.
And even if people can afford it, how difficult is it to find someone good that's a good fit and is available? But you're right, it's just not there. And even when it is, the hierarchy doesn't work for so many men and boys. People want to be in it together.
Yeah. But I mean, the other thing that I was going to say is that, we've interviewed so many sort of men's groups, and I get myself in a position where I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to go to that one, but it's like, but they never seem to be at the times that are convenient. And I mean, and we often sort of talk about, oh, it's great that we're meeting all these men's groups. Is there a way that we could bring them all together? And I mean, sort of one of the things that I thought would be like, well, wouldn't it be amazing if there was a space that, you could go to on any day of the week, and because, as you say, we all work different hours. I mean, as I say, I live near Gatwick, so a lot of people around here are on shift work at the airport. So, and we don't, we don't always have that time on a set day free. Yeah. And and then and you can go through periods of like, I do need to speak to someone. It might not be something very specific, but it is, well, as you said, I just want to be heard. I just want to sort of speak and feel like it's been heard. Don't necessarily want any answers. I just want to be heard. But, it's like, oh, but then I've got to get my son to football training, got to pick my daughter up from here. Yeah. So yeah, sort of hearing that you do it at 12:30, I'm like, oh yeah, that would be perfect for me.
We started it at that time during lockdowns to give people some structure. If you're working from home and this can be your lunch break, then come during your lunch break and carry on, because the chaos that lockdown still brings is off the scale. And then we have the evening groups as well, which are the longer groups that are more fathers and young, old, whatever. And whatever else people want, as long as the all the facilitators and we've never been paid. They've been trained, I trained them, and they pay for that. And then they come to the check-ins, they hold a breakout room, they're supported, and then they have the space to serve however they want to serve. And it doesn't even have to be with us. Pick up the tools and go. It's about, for me, especially now I'm 60, my thing is I want to share my tools with anyone and everyone to pass it on, because I don't want there to be a necessity for men's groups. I want people to be able to live consciously and communicate and care and share as normal, so we don't need groups. Right now we do, because the tragedy is most men don't have friends. And to be frank, I don't believe that most men are men at all. I'd say most men are scared boys who haven't included the feminine side and are so busy making a noise to prove their masculinity that they can't listen. They're so busy selling something and trying to rise up the pecking order that they can't just belong and be one off. And it's all this selling and proving and staying out of trouble. And for me, the difference between a man and a boy, nothing to do with age, but it's to be able to know when to react, which is rare, and to be able to respond. Know when it's time to pass the ball and know when it's time to score. Know how to be with, not just do, and let the doing be an extension of the being. But so many males and so many people are all about fear. And sadly, so many people come to the men's groups with what's wrong with me and how do I do me right? And rather than finding that out, they find out who they are and how to be themselves in the world.
Why is that? You think why are men scared boys? Why don't they? And I deliberately use that word. Why don't they just man up?
Because manning up means sell out and be a twat for other people's approval. If there aren't men to show men how to be men, then who's going to show them? If it's not there, not just this is the way, but this is the community. This is good community. Which parts are like you? Which parts do you want to experiment with? How are you going to explore so you can be your own authentic man? But if there haven't been men, and you could so easily blame the media, the Industrial Revolution, organized religion, addiction to money and power, blah, 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 whatever. But for whatever reason, men don't have friends, men don't have communities. You could say their parents' technology or money or capitalism or whatever let them down. For whatever reason. And for me, it's not about, and this is another one of the things we say in the men's groups, it's not about blaming and shaming. Fucked if I care why. I want a difference. And in the groups, we name things. We name things that are going on and we name things that are not right. And that breaks the spell on them.
Yeah.
Shaming keeps a man a scared boy putting on a bad show, thinking you should man up. And we've turned that around to man up and talk about it, because that's what takes courage. And then you're taking a space and some change can happen. But it's not about shaming or blaming. And people can spend so much time and money. It's because of my father and the religion and society, and I was too poor and I'm too fat or short or whatever. Fuck it. Acceptance is the first step. And then the ability to move on with good company, standing on the shoulders of giants, learning from one another, being able to trust and ask questions and make your own choice as your own man.
It's interesting, sort of some of the things that you mentioned there. We had a guest from an organisation called Band of Brothers.
I know them.
And but you know, Bernie, the guy that we interviewed, he made such an interesting point about, you know, it's almost like we don't respect the village elders anymore, or we don't have that contact with the village elders that, you know, back in the day we'd sit round the campfire telling stories, and yeah, you'd learn from the village elders. And you know, you can sort of say, well, it is, well, you know, part of it is, well, the fact that a lot of, I'll say a lot, perhaps, you know, there are people that don't have a strong male presence in their life. And, oh yeah, I mean, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it is almost, you know, and you sort of talk about sort of technology, and it seems that as we progress with technology, we seem to lose something societally, if that's a word.
Totally agree.
And spiritually. I mean, sort of, and I think I'm going on a bit of a ramble now, but I mean, sort of one of the things that Volker mentioned was that, you know, you sound sort of part philosopher, and you've talked about Catholicism. I mean, so do you have a faith now, or would you say it's more of a sort of spiritual approach to life?
I went from being a nice Catholic boy, being gently ushered into priesthood. But I'd have to give up my potty mouth, and I was just too horny to be a priest anyway. Into wanting more and knowing that there's more. So when I moved to London, I accidentally discovered Theosophy, which to me was the essence of the religions, including science and nature and the shadow, etc. Blavatsky stuff. And then from there, through various other, and for me, life has always been guidance. I should have been dead quite a few times. I was once kidnapped in Delhi. All sorts of funny things happened. I accidentally discovered A Course in Miracles, and I was in the 80s, 90s, supporting a lot of people who were teachers of Course in Miracles, helping them promote their books. And, before personal development and all of this stuff was trendy, there was one bookshop. It was called Watkins. And going into Watkins was like going in to see a prostitute. You'd look around to see whether anyone's... Not that I've ever done that. But, it was like that in those days. And now I what do you call it, hold meditations and workshops for A Course in Miracles. Alternatives in London used to bring all the big teachers from around the world into the UK. And I've been holding workshops for them. I'm a tutor at the College of Psychic Studies. And I've been working with them for, I don't know, probably about a decade. So spirituality is very much a way of life for me. But it's not an organized religion. And it kind of, as I discovered through theosophy, includes the essence of all religions. And it needs for me to be grounded here and now. And it's literally mind, body, spirit, and balls. Because otherwise, what are we doing? Compartmentalizing and being one monkey for one show and a different monkey for another show. I need to be in alignment with myself in every moment and extend myself from my authentic self into the world in every moment. It's not just my 20 minutes of meditation and stuff like that. It needs to be right here and right now without thinking about it, but feeling when I'm out of alignment and being able to... Here's another thing that we do in the men's groups that's so efficient. People can come in with issues about work or their temper or their partners or whatever, and they've got the drama. And most people would go, oh, great, wonderful, let's process the drama. It's not about that. The facilitators have learned, if it's right, if it's appropriate, to ask the man in the room to breathe into the feeling and to really feel his feeling, and then to follow the feeling back and see where it takes them. Because that's what's really being triggered. That's the place that needs to be met. And that's the pause button that needs to be underpressed to set them free, to stop Groundhog Day.
So interesting what you say, because there's something I've been discussing with a friend of mine for a good few weeks now. So we have regular men sessions, just him and me. And then he tries to tell me, and I still haven't understood it fully yet, but we have to, say, come to peace with our male heritage, right? And the other point you mentioned was about spirituality, right? And then I think, so his argument is that I can see where that's coming from, is if we don't have a common spirituality, if we don't have a common goal, and let's call it God, and I'm not calling any specific God, as society, we don't have a mentor, right? We don't have anything to look up to, which is why societies that have that do better than the ones that don't. And that's probably something we've lost, if I say in Germany, in the UK, whilst, if I say our friends in America, they, in God we trust, right? It's part of, and I'm the least religious person probably here.
I don't think that's probably the best example.
But I'd like,
sorry to
I
our
like the
American
idea
listeners.
what you say, Kenny. It makes total sense for me. And then the question is, how can we solve that, right? How can we put the puzzle pieces back together so it works for everyone?
I think this is the perfect sum up, actually, and it goes back to what David was saying with the band of brothers and elders. The tragedy these days is men don't turn to other men, boys don't turn to other boys, people turn to the internet, and then all sorts of shit comes up. And apparently, I said this on Jeff Norcott's podcast the other day, within 2.5 minutes on a 14-year-old boy going on TikTok for the first time will have Andrew Tate in front of him within 2.5 minutes. Boys and men are looking for leadership, as you say. And Tate will do, porn will do, Trump will do, something masculine that will break things because I'm too scared to be in trouble. This is that might sound like one size fits all, but I think this sums it up. And this is the essence of so much work I do with private clients, is they get to know their inner protector, the part of them that showed up so they can survive life. So whatever the trauma was when they were unprotected, it's almost like their free spirit, their spirit got broken, and that goes back, and the protector goes, right, now I'm going to take charge. You will never be hurt. I will meet the world, and you will be safe, and you will survive. And they survive in whatever way. And there might be addiction and dodgy behavior, but they survive. And then they start not living anymore because that's no longer going on. But the protector and that child is in limbo, still surviving. Yeah. Then they get to meet their inner man who does exist inside of them. And it's quite a shock for a lot of men when they first meet their inner man. When, and I do it online as well, when they change chairs and they meet this part of them. And once their man is here, then literally the protector can hand the child over to a man, to an adult who can take care of them. It's an inside job. Knowing that if this man goes unconscious, the protector's going to take over again, because it's not an option that this child is vulnerable. But when the man is here consistently, then the child is safe, and that breaks the spell on a huge life script. And then two amazing things happen. We have the protector who's no longer on duty controlling the life and looking for trouble and creating Groundhog Day. The protector can advise a life that is now allowed to move forwards. On the other hand, having a free-spirited child, not a child in limbo, a free-spirited, safe child, there's the ability to listen to spirit or guidance or intuition or nature or whatever it is you want to call it. So it's the authentic man inside with these two angels, I guess. I've never used that word for this. And then the show can begin. And the whole frequency that goes out in the world changes. And this is where coincidences and goodness and guidance and the best things, and I know in my life I have never thought anything through and fixed it. The best people and opportunities and things have happened through life. And this is how to get in alignment and allow life to take place. Not another trick or another act or another, visualization should be blah, blah, blah. This is like moving into a bigger, better life with life.
Kenny, I feel like we're just getting started here. This is amazing, but unfortunately, we're becoming, if I say, we're well over. We say that, or David says that regularly. Maybe we have a part 2 at some point. I think we're just starting to scratch the surface in terms of what it means, right, to be a man, to be internally aligned to what we need to align to, right, and then to then radiate out to show how we show up as a man. So thank you. So I hate to stop it here, to be honest. I feel like I'm just ramping up. We unfortunately need to cut it here. But Kenny, where can people find out more? Where can they find out more about you? Where can they join the men group? Where can people get involved?
For the men's groups, it's mensgroups.co.uk. For me, it's themanwhisperer.co.uk. And even though I'm not a father, I'm now an uncle. I'm an agony uncle in the iPaper. So that's online every Monday and in the paper most Tuesdays. And I try and make myself available. So
thank you.
The groups hopefully every day, and that's just the perfect place to start. And I love training people. I've got my ebook out and all of that, but we'll save that for another time.
Brilliant. Kenny, thank you so much.
How do you pronounce your surname?
Mammarella-D'Cruz. Mammarella's my wife's name. She's Italian.
Right. I'm just
Yeah.
disappointed that Volker didn't have a crack at that one.
Cool. It wasn't in the email.
A likely story.
my excuse. No, brilliant. That was
Take
really
good
good.
care, eh?
Yeah, no,
It's
thank you,
been
Kenny.
really
that
good
was
to hang out.
that was
Oh,
really
thanks
good.
very much.
Thank you. We keep you
Thanks,
posted
Kenny.
on terms of when things go live, etc.
Lovely.
Cool.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Feel free to reach out to Volker or David via our website, www.manupdown.com, or podcast@manupdown.com, with any feedback or to let us know what topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Hear you again soon.